Good evening. Tonight, our sources are telling us that talks at the political opposition, the newly loosely formed National Super Alliance, NASA, to choose their presidential flag bearer are going on well. Is the proverbial white smoke just around the corner as the pressure continues to mount? The four presidential hopefuls have continued to dig in their heels on this, and there have been reports, one of them being rumored to be unwilling to compromise, even considering going it alone if he is not on the ballot. Is there any truth to this? Tonight we'll put some perspective on all that. That is on state of the race. We'll also seek to train our cameras on the county of Trans Nzoia, a traditionally Ford Kenya stronghold, which used to be key in the politics of Kenya, but has somehow waned in recent years. From the days of George Kapteni in Kwanza, Kijana wa Malo in Saboti, and Kipruto Arap Kirwa in Cherangani, Trans Nzoia's politics was vibrant in the 1990s. Just what happened? Well, on the program tonight, we have Kipruto Kirwa, who is seeking to make a grand comeback, and the current elected leader in the county, Minority Deputy Chief Whip in the 11th National Assembly, Kiminini Member of Parliament, Chris Wamalwa. Choice 2017 begins right now. I'm Ben Kitili. And good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us on the show tonight. Yeah. All right, I have with me, of course, like I told you, the Kipruto Arap Kirwa, the deputy party leader of the Amani National Congress, ANC, and of course, Peter Mabuki, the Deputy Secretary General of WIPA, who is also a member of the East African Legislative Assembly, to just put some perspective in the next 30 minutes or so on the NASA talks and what has been ongoing for the last 2 weeks or so. Karibu sana.
Thank you so much.
Let me start with you, Mr. Kirwa. If you can just tell us, is there any progress in those NASA talks at all?
Well, there is a lot of progress because upon inauguration of our team, comprising about 12 members, we went to the task according to the statement by the principals. One of the issues was to get a platform for us to go for the next election,
right,
and also to look for the best method of getting a candidate in each of the elective positions, starting with the presidential candidate and different other positions at the county and also a national assembly.
Right.
We've made a lot of progress, and the details shall be divulged at the right time.
What are some of the guidelines, maybe if you can tell us? I know the committee is working on that, the technical committee, but are there any guidelines to guide them in choosing the flag bearer?
Well, the statement by the four principals was very clear. We were given the mandate according to the 6 points that they listed, one of which was to, as a team, determine the best way to get a candidate for each of the elective positions. And those are the issues that we've given to the technical team. They are working on it. They will bring a report to us, and that report shall form the basis of our decision on how to move to the next stage.
All right. Mheshimiwa Madhuki, what is the feeling from the WIPA side?
No, we're feeling that that's the way to go. You remember that NASA is the way to go. NASA is an alliance that is coming together to save this country from the mess brought in by Jubilee government. And therefore, there's no other way. We must go that way. So NASA is the way to go for this country. And I can assure you, by the feeling of Kenyans across the board, they're feeling now this is the year to save Kenya and Kenyans from the mess by the Jubilee government. So NASA will offer that solution.
Let me ask both of you this question.
Yeah.
Will your party leader stay flag bearer or not?
He has to stay. He is the principal. He's a principal, in fact, in the court coalition and again in NASA. He's one, in fact, without any one of them, then there's no NASA. So there's no way we can say any of them is leaving. They have to be part of this because it's not about an agenda for one person. It is about Kenya and Kenyans. So he has to be there.
There has been a rumor that the former Vice President, Kalonzo Musyoka, is willing to go it alone if he's not on the ballots. Is this propaganda? What can you tell us about it?
You know, they would want to say anything. Can I tell you something? Jubilee will invest and put anything to bring confusion in this. And therefore, those propaganda by the Jubilee and the likes of their allies will to bring confusion in NASA. And I can tell you they will fail. And therefore, it's far from the truth. That I can assure you for free, and that is a position by WIPA, that the party leader is part and parcel of the NASA. And we are there to stay.
Will your party leader, Musalia Mudavadi, stay flag bearer or not?
Well, I think it is clear as long as the process is right, and I think all has been done to make sure that the process is right. We are going to be on course because we are not interested in who becomes the flag bearer. As long as we clinch the leadership of this country and we provide alternative leadership to the people of Kenya. Number two, let us be cognizant of the fact that coalition building is not like mediation, because the players who are dealing with the issues of coalition are the same players who are interested parties. So we must address certain sensitivities, including the question of ego of each individual, even those of us who are in the committee, and also the constituencies that these leaders come from. If, for example, it was not going to be A going for being the flag bearer, right, how do we deal with that constituency? These are some of the things we are considering, so that eventually when we say so-and-so is our flag bearer, it will be the platform that we have built that is important, not where somebody comes from. And we shall have thought of a way of addressing the constituency that each of the leaders represent.
Just how important is that unity, and what have you done to invest in that unity?
That's why we've had a number of meetings, including the need for us to build consensus among ourselves, to bond, and also to leave our parties outside the door. So that when we are in that committee, we are not in that committee as representative of parties, but as individuals who have been bestowed with the responsibility of dealing with the critical matter of getting the best combination that can lead our country.
All right. So,
I would tell you one thing which is very important. Of the 4 principals in NASA, they are not competitors. Our problem is Jubilee, actually. And therefore, any of the four can be the best for this country. And that's what we are saying. And the idea is, as Mheshimiwa says, is not about who becomes the flag bearer here, but is how do we save Kenya from the mess done by Jubilee. And I think that is the key, that should be the focus. To me, that should be the focus, not about who becomes what. So let's not give a lot of who becomes what in NASA, because again, once we put into that.
But is it important, I mean, you know, the combination on that presidential ticket, who is the flag bearer, who is the running mate, that must be important even for the committee?
Well, the matrix shall be arrived at based on certain key principles, and those principles are the ones which are being developed. But remember, our competitors are alive to the reality that one candidate from our side is going to clinch victory. And therefore, they have to spend a lot of resources, invest in propaganda, invest in rumors, and invest in all manner of diversionary tactics to ensure that we are not on course. But we are alive also to some of those realities. This is not the first time we are building a coalition. We've done it before. It worked in 2002, and we got the best results.
What do you think is going to be like 2002?
You see, because of the common interest here, the common agenda. And the common agenda is like in 2002, the leadership of the president who was there then for a long time, and with a lot of dissatisfaction by Kenyans across the board. So it's like the guys in government now, the Jubilee. For 5 years, in fact, Kenyans are so dissatisfied that they feel they cannot agree another 5 years under Jubilee government. And therefore now, with that in mind, there's no other way. We must come together as NASA and liberate Kenya and Kenyans from the mess by the Jubilee.
Mheshimiwa Kiro, at the end of the day, even after the work that you're doing as part of the technical committee is done, I mean, is it going to be the 4 principles to decide at the end of the day? I don't know if I'm right, and if I'm right, which way would you prefer as ANC, nomination or consensus?
Well, now you are taking me to a very dangerous area, because I'll be preempting the discussions that are going to take place. But at every stage, you are going to inform our principals so that any critical political decision shall be done with their concurrence. Because it is important, at the end of the day, each one of them must be satisfied that the process that has been used is right, and the results reflect the wishes of Kenyans. Above all, this agenda is not ours. It is the agenda of the people of Kenya who cannot afford more borrowing and wastage of resources. When Jubilee took over, the borrowing was at 800 billion, external debt. Now it is at over 2.7 trillion. A clear, almost they are borrowing 700 billion every year, and we are not seeing the results. So these are some of the concerns that we have. And they are critical concerns not only to the people of Kenya, but also to the international community at large.
As Wiper, same
Yes.
question, do you have a preference, nominations or consensus?
No, I think, and Mheshimiwa has said it right, there's a committee that is in place. And of course, we have, as our party, we have a lot of confidence in what we'll be doing. I'm sure much of it will be guided by so many other factors. And I'm sure they are alive to those factors. And as I've said, it is not about who now. It is about the suffering by Kenyans. Look at I can assure you today, I went down in the villages. And the suffering that people are going through. Doctors on strike, they are unable to access this. We cannot agree. In fact, we cannot agree not even another 5 years, another one day of Jubilee administration after elections of August 2017. And I'm telling you, we have confidence, we have confidence in this. It will be guided by so many other factors. And we will definitely be confident.
Let's talk about that, Mheshimiwa Kirwa. Apart from bundling Jubilee out of power, what really does NASA stand for?
Well, we stand for an all-inclusive government where we recognize the political entities and also non-political actors, including the civil society, the labor union, because we strongly believe that this country needs an all-inclusive government that reflects the diversity of the nation and borrows from the strengths of different communities and individuals, so that at the end of the day, the government of the day must reflect the wishes of the people of Kenya. We also stand for a transparent system of government, a government that is responsive to the needs of Kenyans, and also a government that reflects the needs of Kenyans as required. We cannot be dealing with issues of calculating our GDP in terms of how many construction sites that we have. We must say, what program do we have to transform the lives of the people of Kenya? So that if a Kenyan is living under $1 a day, how can we improve that to $2 a day? It's not about how many skyscrapers we have in Nairobi. It is transformative leadership that we are looking for as NASA.
Some of your detractors have been saying that, I know you have been in existence for a few, as an opposition, as a coalition, as NASA, for a few weeks, if not months. But they seem to say that, your detractors are saying that you're hell-bent on bundling Jubilee out of power too much, but you're not offering solutions for Kenyans.
Well, any coalition or any group of individual politicians who are not interested in power have no business thinking of power. We are interested in bungling Jubilee out of power, but we have a clear agenda, whatever I've enumerated, plus other issues that we are building as a platform to sell to Kenyans, that this is our alternative. We want, as we borrow, we must show practically which projects are we implementing, which projects are we sustaining, and are these projects reflecting the wishes of the people, or just grandiose projects for purposes of people getting a cut. This is the agenda of NASA, and this is the agenda of Kenya, and it's driven by the wishes of Kenyans all over the country.
What's your take on this?
I would say that, again, NASA stands to believe that Kenya is for all Kenyans. Kenya is not for two people. Kenya does not belong to one person. But we want to make every Kenyan feel that he belongs to this country. Look at even what is happening in the region. You know, the tension that is currently in the East African region today, as it stands, is a feeling of isolating the country because of, the leadership as it were today. Right. So we want also to make Kenya, again, get acceptable to our allies in the region and even in the world. And I think it's a high time now that we get back Kenya to Kenyans, right, and make sure that, again, Kenya commands the respect it used to command before. Right. And this is now the time.
Going back to that path to August 2017, Mheshimiwa Kirwa, what do you say to a suggestion that has been made of creating a new position of Prime Minister in that power-sharing deal in NASA, a position, obviously, that is not espoused in the new constitution, in the Kenyan constitution?
Well, our discussions have not reached there, and if they reach there, these are political arrangements that we can entertain in our minds. The constitution was not, Kenyans were not made for the constitution. Any law that is made on the land can be altered as long as it meets the wishes of the people. We are listening to Kenyans. We want to hear what they have to say. But even under the current constitutional dispensation, we can share power without necessarily amending the constitution. It is clear that the people of Kenya want change, and that change we can give them under any constitution, this one or any other constitution that, that may come. Above all, you know, we've done, since 2010, we've had this constitution for now the last 7 years. It is high time that we review the constitution. And as we review the constitution, we shall check some of the areas that need to be strengthened, some of the areas that need to be altered, and some of the areas that need to be included so that the constitution is a document that is all-inclusive. That is fundamental focus of NASA and the leadership.
As Mheshimiwa Kirwa says,
Yes.
talks haven't reached that point, but would it be fair to Kenyans to create a new position or change the constitution, take Kenya to a referendum just because of a power sharing deal?
Look at this, Ben, you've been to this Kenya for the last 5 years. You've seen the leadership of Jubilee for the last 5 years. We are basically and literally the country and everything in this Kenya has been taken away by two people. And if it would mean a system that will include everyone, and so everyone is happy about it, so be it. Because we've seen this before, where now the only way, if it means the only way is to have a non-inclusive government, where every Kenyan feels satisfied, where every Kenyan feels part of it. So be it, as opposed to a government that is run by two people, and therefore they feel they have it all, and they have taken away, they have run away with it, and the rest of Kenyans are suffering. Doctors, as we speak, they are in Uhuru Park demonstrating, and they are unable to be addressed, and their issues are not addressed. So I think if that is what it will call for, so be it.
All right.
Yeah.
What is your take on, do you think so much has changed from 2013, the last 4 years or so, in terms of the so-called tyranny of numbers, which Jubilee claims they won the last election, and perception on the ground for Kenyans? Do you think much has changed?
And you see, that is a mistake. I think we started off in a very bad way of people misusing and abusing those kind of terms, tyranny of numbers, and they were running away with everything. And therefore, they can even come together at some point and defeat what belongs to Kenyans. So I think it's high time now we have a system that is all-inclusive. You can even see with the tyranny of numbers. Now, as we speak, Kenya is the third, I think, most corrupt country in the world, courtesy of the current administration. And those are some of the things we are saying we want to get Kenya back to where it used to be in terms of respect. And therefore, if we say where much has been done by the tyranny of numbers, my answer, of course, is no. We need now to have a Kenya that belongs to all Kenyans, that every person feels that he belongs to this country, that can comfortably and confidently say that I belong to Kenya, and I stand for that. But as it were, abusing the issue of tyranny of numbers, and you see, running all over and everywhere, and claiming that, we have the numbers, I don't think that is the way to go. So,
what do you think about this?
Well, the 2013 election was won on a platform of referendum against the Hague. Hague is no longer an issue in Kenya, and therefore that is a factor that one must look and also ignore. Number two, our two friends won on the platform of being digital. Today, they are telling us that we have to have a backup, which is manual. So they have actually proven to Kenyans that they were just digital in terms of rhetoric, but they did not have any belief in digital world. This therefore means the second factor has been lost. The third factor was that experience is synonymous with inefficiency. But the truth has now been proven that inexperience is actually a very big disadvantage in terms of managing of public affairs. So those of us who have experience in managing public affairs, we are now coalescing and telling Kenyans we have the alternative platform we are giving you. The experience that we have collectively is enough to run the affairs of this country. And that is where we are going.
All right. Let's move forward and let's move out from the presidential race and the talks that are ongoing between in the technical committee. What about the rest of the elective positions in the elections? Which method do you prefer as NASA? Joint nominations or not?
I would say, depends. In some cases, for example, in some counties, depending on the nature, that some counties that are cosmopolitan in nature, there could be some agreements to avoid situations where we lose positions. We had that challenge in 2013, where, of course, the parties that, of course, formed CORD, we had different candidates, and therefore, of course, we lost to our opponents. So therefore, in some cases, they could consider, of course, I'm assuming that having, of course, joint nominations in some cases. But cases where parties to NASA, of course, are strong, of course, we may need to go and agree that, of course, allow parties that belong to NASA to have their candidates, of course, field the candidates as independent parties. And I think that is only fair. Yeah, but counties that are, like Nairobi, for example, I would say, we must rethink and see how do we have some joint nominations, yes.
Do you agree?
Well, I agree as an individual, but I'm not speaking on behalf of the committee. What I can say is that we are learning from experience, the 2002 elections, 2007. For those of us who are in PNU, we realized the losses that were occasioned because of fielding against each other, 2007, and the last general election. Now that we are coming together as a coalition, those are some of the factors to consider and learn from the experience and pick the best examples that can assist us clinch as many seats as possible, both at the county assembly, at the gubernatorial level, and also in parliament.
How much do you think it complicates issues, the fact that there's NASA as a unit that is growing, and there's CORD, which is also another unit, but is inside NASA. Does that complicate matters in terms of the joint nominations or on what to agree?
Well, I think the most important thing is that once the political decision is arrived at, and which our leaders did arrive at, some of the technical details shall be ironed by the technical team, and we'll be able to get to a situation where we are dealing with one entity called NASA.
So we are coming out stronger, to me. In fact, you look at how it used to be before. CORD comprised of Wiper, Democratic Movement, of course ODM, and then Ford Kenya. Now we have NC on board, and therefore that's why we have NASA. So I think our coming together will make us stronger, and therefore when we arrive at decisions, we will be arrived at the best interests of the coalition and the country.
Is CORD dead, effectively?
No, CORD cannot be dead, because if it is dead, then we cannot have NASA. That's why we had CORD, and then of course we agreed that we need to bring as many friends as possible, and that's why friends of ANC and even many others came on board, and therefore NASA in place. So CORD cannot be dead, honestly.
All right. There's a feeling, going back to that presidential race, Mheshimiwa Kirwa, that even as the talks continue, even as NASA continues to traverse this country, wooing voters behind their cause, that the ODM leader, Raila Odinga, is the blue-eyed boy in this thing, that he has some kind of advantage.
Well, I've not seen his eyes of late, but what I know is that he's as good as any other candidate. And Kitili, remember, in the whole of Africa, there are certain examples that we've seen. And suffice to say, the wind of change started in West Africa, with various countries gaining independence, and it swept to East Africa. The wind of change of the incumbency losing to the opposition has also started in West Africa. And some of the candidates that have been picked, including in Gambia, were not necessarily the most preferred candidate. But in the process of getting the best formula that can allow us clinch the ticket, they arrived at somebody that was least thought of. Even 2002, the Kibaki Tosha thing came in as last minute. Otherwise, had you taken opinion polls 6 months before and said Kibaki was going to be the president of Kenya, nobody would have taken you seriously. So we are 6 months away from the election. Let the process determine the best candidate. If it is Mheshimiwa Raila, we have no problem. Right. If it is Mheshimiwa Kalonzo, if it's Mheshimiwa Wetangula, if it's my party leader, I'll be celebrating.
What do you think about that perception?
Me too. Of course, like any other party. For example, speaking from Wiper desk, I'll be very happy to have the party leader become the presidential flag bearer. And that is actually why we met in Kasarani 13th of December. And we said, we gave a nod to Mheshimiwa Kalonzo Musyoka and say, please go for it. So the expectation from the Wiper Party is that, of course, Kalonzo becomes the flag bearer. And so we are saying, since this is a coalition and we have so many other, and we are saying, yes, we must respect that the four of them are equal and are good enough to lead this country. So we allow the process to take the best course. But of course, like anyone else, if it's President Kalonzo Musyoka 2017 August, that would be very good for me and good for the country.
All right.
And good for...
Let me take you back to that uncomfortable place that I keep taking you back to. And my question would be, picking from where he has left off, is Kalonzo Musyoka the fulcrum or the nucleus or the constant in as you try to come up with a formula? Some people analysts are saying or arguing that having Raila Odinga and Musalia Mudavadi on the ticket, or Raila Odinga and Wetangula on the ticket, that would be a Western Kenya ticket. It could alienate some parts. So is Kalonzo the fulcrum of this? It's my work to make you uncomfortable.
Well, I think you've sufficiently demonstrated that, but I would say that he's an integral player in the team of four. And therefore, nobody can wish him away, given his experience, given his demeanor, and the fact that he casts a profile of a national leader. He is a very integral player in this team. But as team building entails, the captain does not have necessarily to be the best scorer. The captain may be a goalkeeper, the captain may be number 7, or at times on the reserve bench. So that is the way we are looking at it.
All right.
Yeah.
From 2013, what lessons would you say you have learned as CORD, maybe that you can bring into the NASA platform?
That indeed it's important that whatever decisions we are making as NASA, as a government, from August 2017, we need to bring everybody on board. And not only piece of government, we must actually fight and ensure that we don't, tribalism in fact has killed this country. And those are some of the things it has been very well demonstrated in the current leadership, where now tribalism is so clear. If you ask, you look at the cabinet of the current leadership now, you easily tell, actually that defines what tribalism is. Going forward, we need a Kenya that makes everyone comfortable, that everyone feels that he belongs to this country. And those are some of the lessons. Secondly, is about corruption. Corruption has become, talk to anyone out of this country, even to the smallest kid who is born. They must understand what corruption is, because as they are born on a 90,000 tag to the head, 10,000 shillings. And those are some of the lessons going forward. We've learned, and we are saying now those cannot be repeated. We cannot make mistakes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
When do we expect that team, the technical committee, to come up with the white smoke?
The white smoke is in due course, and as I said at the beginning of this program, we have to inform our principals at every stage before we make the pronouncement. We are waiting for them to come to town, and if by Thursday they will have come to town, we shall be able to make a statement that takes us closer to the white smoke.
All right. Thank you, Mheshimiwa Mathuki. Peter Mathuki, member of the East African Legislative Assembly and also the Deputy Secretary General of the Wiper Democratic Movement, Kenya. We've been talking about the National Super Alliance and what some of those intrigues that are coming out of those talks to choose a presidential flag bearer. You're watching Choice 2017 here on KTN News. When we return, we change gears a bit and focus on the battle for the county of Trans Nzoia. We shall be having Kipruto Kiro. We'll be retaining him on the show, and we shall be joined by the member